To thank my guest who came into the barracks today, Mr. DJ Kendrick, entrepreneur, dropped a whole bunch of nuggets, and he's gonna give me that 1186 water. Hey, listen, he's not lying. 1186, by far some of the best water I've ever had, and not only that. Hey, listen, the owner CEO, if you reach out to him on Instagram, let's make this happen, people. Let's make this 10K happen, okay? I definitely want him to be able to reach 10,000 followers so we can help take him to the next level. I'm going to be pushing that agenda for the whole month of May. All right, so we're going to do this May 10K. Push him forward, and he will respond to you. He will personally respond to you, not a bot. He will. So thank you, DJ, for coming in and dropping some nuggets, man, and giving us those brilliant marketing strategies and tools. And I definitely want to use that. We definitely got to get that food truck idea going. I'm just saying. All right. Y'all know it's time for me to get up out of here. Hey, listen, I'll talk about Russell Westbrook on Thursday. Young Cody will be in the barracks with me, so we'll talk about that on Thursday because, I want to do a little bit more. And by that time, Russell Westbrook will have had another triple-double, I'm sure of it. But y'all know how we do it. All my Vietnam veterans, welcome home. Germany, good night. All my active duty military personnel that's downrange, good night. It is now time for Big Sarge's Article 15. Bobby Paul Edwards, come get this work. A black man enslaved by his white boss for 5 years should be given $546,000 in compensation, a court ruled. According to Yahoo.com, a black man enslaved by his white boss for 5 years should be given $546,000 in compensation, a court ruled. A man with an intellectual disability who was enslaved by a restaurant owner in South Carolina for 5 years should be awarded $546,000, a court ruled. In 2019, Bobby Paul Edwards, who owned the J&J Cafeteria in Conway, South Carolina, pleaded guilty to 1 count of forced labor for coercing an African-American man with an intellectual disability to work extensive hours at a restaurant for no pay and was sentenced to 10 years in prison, the Justice Department said in a press release at the time. As part of the settlement, Edwards was ordered to pay John Christopher Smith $273 in unpaid wages and overtime compensation. Edwards forced Smith to work over 100 hours a week without pay. He would also beat him with a belt, fist, and pots and pans, the press release said. On April 21st, the Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit ruled that Smith was entitled to double that amount, which is $546,000. The court said the district court did not properly account for federal labor laws when it made the decision on compensation. Minimum wages and overtime compensation must be paid on a current basis as work is done, such that an employer receives the prescribed compensation without delay. When an employer fails to pay those amounts, these employees suffer losses, which includes the loss of the use of that money during the period of delay, the court said in its filing. Edwards forced Smith to work over 100 hours a week without pay. He would also beat him with a belt, fist, and pots and pans, the press release said. Hey, didn't Senator Tim Scott say something about racism doesn't exist and we kind of live in a world where racism doesn't exist, or there's not a form of discrimination or something like that? Like Senator Tim Scott said that, right? And if I'm not mistaken, ain't he from South Carolina? Like, he's from South Carolina, correct? He's from the same state where I read about Bobby Paul Edwards and what he did to John Christopher Smith, beating him with pots, pans, fists. Hey, sir, let me say this. I hope and I pray that while you're in prison, you get treated the exact same way. I do. I hope that you get treated the exact same way that you treated someone else. There's no possible way that you thought what you were doing was right. Like, there's no possible way you could have ever thought that doing this to this man who was intellectually disabled, you knew what you were doing was wrong. You knew working him 100 hours a week was wrong. You knew that hitting him. Who has the right to? Oh, you know what? I get it now. Hey, some of you all don't know your history, so let me give it to you. Hey, go back and look up where the first slaves, when they came to America, guess where they landed at? Guess where they came in at? South Carolina. So I'm guessing that only thing that you're doing is what your lineage. You're just doing, your behaved, your bloodline, and everything that you all used to do, that your ancestors used to do. It just kept running on through your bloodline, and you thought that, hey, look, I don't care that it's 2019. I'm gonna still beat him and punch him upside the head and tell him you ain't doing right. And I guarantee you, he called him the N-word. Like, there's nobody that can prove to me and say to me, let's say not prove, let's just say, ain't nobody can say to me that he didn't call that man the N-word. You beat him, hit him with pots and pans, use your fist and your hand. Oh, guess what? I guess you say, hey, boy, let me show you how we used to do it. Let me show you how we used to get your kind to do what we needed them to do. You better hope you go in there and get with some type of gang in the prison that's going to protect you, because once these guys find out, and what I mean by these guys, I'm talking about them African-American males in there that's pushing up weight and doing push-ups all day. Once they find out you did that, oh, you're going to have to come pay. Making somebody be a slave? A slave. And by the way, side note, hey, where was the people who were supposed to be protecting this young man? Where were those people? Where were those people who were supposed to be protected? Like, there's somebody that had to say, hey, wait a minute, 100 hours a week? Like, the regular work week is 40 hours. 80 hours in 2 weeks. He's working 100 hours a week. This man is working 400 hours a month on top of being beaten, physically abused, mentally abused, psychologically abused, and nobody thought that this was wrong? Outside of the man that was doing it, he is a jerk. And I'm saying that because I'm on a gospel Christian radio network, and I'm not going to use the words I really want to use. I'm not going to, listen, Kirk Franklin got some words that I need to borrow to talk about this man. But he's a jerk. But so is everybody else who wasn't protecting this man. So is everybody else who wasn't protecting this man, knowing that he was being done like this. He had to live somewhere. It didn't say he lived at the restaurant. So he had to live somewhere. Somebody had to notice, like, hey, he gone for a long time. I digress. Hey, sir, I hope they do more to you than what you did to that young man. Don't worry about it. I'll pray and ask for God's forgiveness when I finish. As soon as I get off air, I'm going to say, well, maybe God, maybe that was the wrong words to say. Maybe I shouldn't have wished that on that man. Like, maybe I shouldn't. But then again, I mean, if you read your Bible, hey, God wasn't just oh, okay, I'm going to let you get away with it. Go ahead and read that Bible. God punished. The wages of sin is death. I'm not saying that this man should die, so let me preface my statement by saying that. But what I will say is there's no possible way that that man and whoever allowed this to happen should be able to not do hard labor. If the prison system, I wish the prison system made you atone for your crimes the exact same way that you committed the crime. This is ridiculous. Slavery still in 2019? I'll tell you what. Let me get on up out of here. I will see you all. This thing has bothered me. Y'all know that? It's like, I'm sorry. I know I gotta go. But it is bothering me. And it's bothered me because I didn't think that we would still be doing slavery. I know that racism exists. I know that discrimination exists. I know that non-equality exists. I didn't think we were still going to be going through slavery, where someone is being overworked and being physically abused. I never thought we'd be You've been tuned in to Sports Talk with Big Sarge.